Hello and good evening. Welcome to a special edition of Wednesday Night Magic. Tonight we're gonna talk about all the new changes to Magic as an esport and a tabletop sport, as Wizards detailed in a pretty dense announcement last week. I'm Clifford, as always. Joined by Roguelink and Skybills. How are y'all tonight?
Hello.
Hello.
Y'all doing all right this evening?
Absolutely. Learning a lot about the way this new arena/tabletop structure is working. And as you said, I think dense is a fantastic word to describe this article as a whole. Should we put the article in chat so everyone can follow along with us?
Yeah, if you want to link the article in chat, that would be wonderful. I'm going to try and get it up here on the screen real quick, if I can. Using the magical powers known to us as, as professional streamers here, I can make this happen. But basically, tonight we're gonna break down all the new changes. Then we're going to go a little more in depth on specifically the new Rivals League that is being created to provide a path to the Magic Pro League, the MPL. And then we're gonna be like, wait, what's all this stuff happening with Arena? And we'll talk about how it really matters for us.
I will open up by saying the subject for a lot of this, and a lot of the debate comes from, so we've had tabletop Magic for 20 years plus, right? Very successful game. People have enjoyed playing it. They've enjoyed traveling, meeting people. And now suddenly we have Magic Arena. And you may think to yourself, well, wait a second. Didn't Magic the Gathering Online exist? Absolutely. And it exists in Modern and Legacy as well. Those are the most popular formats to play on there. But now suddenly we have this new medium. We have Arena. And Arena, to my understanding, is kind of meant to fill that void that Hearthstone is creating. You know, so we have Hearthstone. We need a Magic game that looks pleasing to the eyes and it's good production value. So from Arena, and now keep in mind, and this is the mind-blowing part, Arena's still in beta stage right now. I cannot believe it considering all the money that's being soaked into Arena. Arena's still in its beta stages right now. So, from that, Wizards tried and had very much succeeded, still to this day, of creating the Mythic Invitational, which had happened at PAX East this past March 2019. And at that Mythic Invitational, production value was very much emphasized. You had 32 of this newly created Magic Pro League. You had 32 streamers, personalities, people who are used to being on the camera and whatnot. And you had this very cool, very wholesome MPL versus the streamers atmosphere, which created a lot of cool matches. Yes, you would see the MPL dominating, but there were also quite a few upsets that happened there. And it overall, with the exception of the Duo Standard, we can unpack why Duo Standard was a thing if we want to later. Overall, though, the production value was really up there. It was probably one of the most successful Magic events ever. Because when you look at it on stream in a tabletop format, it just doesn't look quite as pretty as Arena. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from Modern and Legacy people about this, and that's entirely understandable. You know, there should be some love for Modern and Legacy as well.
Because they're the best formats.
Well, and again, I totally understand that. I understand why Magic the Gathering Online is still very much coveted. We want to preserve those formats. We want to make sure those formats get the love they deserve, and we want to make sure that they have the championship formats that they deserve. So that being said, after all of that, here we have Arena, and we have Tabletop, and now this article addresses how do they interact with one another? How do they intersect with one another? And hence, this article was created, this incredibly dense article that, quite frankly, I'm at least still trying to unpack in all of this.
I've been reading it for a week, and I'm still trying to unpack it. And I can't seem to get it to show up on my OBS window. It's just showing up as a white box, and it's making me angry. But I digress.
From that area on, so I want to know, as someone who hasn't been directly involved, Clifford and Roguelink, what are your initial impressions of some of these changes, and just of the article, and the fact that this is very dense as a whole? What was your first impression when you saw all of this, when you saw the Twitter announcement? And it can be in any order. Go for it.
So really, and this is actually something that I realized right now, is there were a lot of earlier Pro Tours / events that were kind of mixing physical Magic and digital Magic. I can't remember. I think it was Worlds the last couple of years, but some people were used to grinding out a slot for the World Championships with points earned from Magic Online, and they were more used to the flows and the rhythm of a digital game. So it's interesting to see that so much is now split, where you have an entire progress path from physical Magic, an entire progress path of digital Magic, and they don't meet until the absolute highest level. So they can sort of focus the production values on two different things in two different places. What about you, Clifford?
Yeah.
I, for one, like, the big thing to me is the addition of this Rivals League. Like, since the MPL has come about, the questions have been, what is the path to get into the MPL? How do I make a way for myself to join the ranks of the highest tier Magic players and join that Magic professional league that is so coveted? And like, seeing that come out was the biggest thing for me. I was really excited to see that. I am also excited to see all the new ways that they're going to play the game and set up for Worlds to matter a lot. I know we were talking beforehand about how now Worlds is the king of the hill, where it used to just be, yeah, it was a big event, but it wasn't the crown jewel like it probably should be, right? It's Worlds. It should be your highest ranking event, and I think that reshuffling things now, while I'm sad to see the old Pro Tour system change, like, I'm glad to see Worlds really get the recognition it deserves.
The MPL is so young right now. Why do you think Wizards is making this Rivals change so soon? I feel like, again, we're talking about Arena and Beta here. Why not give the MPL, as is right now, a couple years to kind of flourish and become what it is before immediately changing it? What do you think brought on this sudden change? Do you think it was the criticism from some of the highest level players in Magic?
I think that there was always like a desire to set up a tiered system, like you would see in like a European football almost. But like, I think that was always the plan, and I think like they wanted to have it ready for next year, but like it wasn't ready for right now to reshuffle everything for the fall of this year, which is why we're moving into that like the partial season next season that's going to run from January to July. Just think it's all logistics. When you're working with a program as big as this is, right? Like, trying to get everything correct is a task in and of itself.
Well, not only that, the money that Wizards is soaking into this, you can't afford to take such a severe change. And again, they took a risk, and it absolutely succeeded in the Mythic Invitational. The viewership alone was one of the highest viewership totals we've seen in the history of Magic. Just the amount of production value that went into that, you know, more so than even any of the tabletop stuff I see. So, do we feel like this Rivals is going to create the same kind of hype that having the streamers around the Challengers versus the MPL is going to cause, or do you think it's going to turn into one of those, oh, these are the same old people playing again?
I think it really depends on, you know, who comes into the Rivals Mythic qualifier. Like, if it's more of an invitational, or if it's more of a like really advanced PTQ. Because on the right side, you can kind of see easy access, for lack of a better term, of getting into, the Mythic point challenges or the Mythic qualifiers to get to that Mythic Invitational. And that's the top 1,200 ranked arena players. And that's a lot of people. Like, when you think about how many people the old Pro Tours had, it was nowhere near 1,200. It was usually less than 100 individual people playing. And now that they have such a popular product, and it's so easy for them to streamline it, or streamline success in this product to a more advanced tier, I think it's very interesting that they're showing a clearer, more convenient path to getting to Worlds, getting to a Mythic Invitational, elevating your professional Magic status that doesn't involve going into a Pro Tour qualifier or a pre-Pro Tour qualifier that may or may not be in your area, or winning at a Magic Fest, which may or may not be in your area.
Yeah, the necessity to travel certainly did put a barrier in for all those, because you're not only trying to pay money to travel, you're paying money for lodging as well, which can get very expensive.
Right.
So that seems reasonable that now you can do this from the comfort of your home.
Yeah,
Here's
and
one
they
of the
did have,
issues now.
You
As
didn't
someone who
sleep in your car at a PTQ for the whole weekend? Come on.
No. So as someone who played in last weekend's qualifier, the cutoff point for getting into, as far as I can understand, the cutoff point for getting into the top 128, 6 wins. 6 wins. To give you an idea of how difficult that is to do, I believe you only needed 5, I want to say, to get into the top 16 of the Invitational. But you could play up to 12 games, 10 wins, 2 losses, and just the whole idea of the shuffler cooperating for that long. And if you've ever played Arena and you know what that shuffler can do, it's ridiculous. It's so easy sometimes to draw all lands or no lands, and that or something that's very close to that variant. So
Sometimes
the idea,
you just gotta run good.
yeah. So the idea is that the odds of getting in there, especially with, again, you were talking about that volume, 1,200 people. Now, that's not just 1,200 people. That is from, actually, limited and constructed. And
Yeah.
if you look at some of the tiebreakers there, one of the tiebreakers is your limited rank. Now, in Arena, in order to play limited, and it is very difficult to go infinite in Arena. I've gone infinite in real life, not on Arena. You have to win, I believe it's 6 out of your 7 matches to break even on your money.
yeah,
So-
6 out of 7 every single time.
Unless you're absolutely committed to the format, you're probably only going to have a mythic rank in constructed. Now, that being said, one of your other tiebreakers is your constructed rank, your highest constructed rank over 3 seasons. And while that may seem reasonable, if you look at the very final day, I remember going to bed one night at rank 300 something, and when I woke up, I was facing the fact that I might not top 1,000. That's 7-8 hours, with 7-8 hours of sleep, right? So in other words, you have to be super grindy up until the last second. And I know for some people that try to balance Magic and other work, that kind of competitive play just isn't possible. Being able to do that within the final hours, within that 11th hour of when that rank rolls over. Now, you may get the person, you end up in rank 900 something, you go to work and you still end up that's awesome. But when that's used as a tiebreaker, a make or break between you getting into the top 128 to play on day 2 of these qualifiers or not, it's pretty steep. So what I'm getting at is that is pretty difficult to get into that as it is. And then again, you have to be good at limited as well to meet that tiebreaker. So what that might mean is the final people who end up making it in. So you have this group of people, worked very hard, things went in their favor, every compelling thing behind Magic is going for them. And then you put them in front of a camera. And that's where you wonder what's going to happen with the production value. Now, one thing I love about Wizards is they do hire professional commentators, and I've absolutely loved every single one of them. But there are times where I feel like personality between two players in a game, it's pretty interesting to watch. You don't get to see it too often. And I remember that being a thing when I was so expressive, and people are like, oh my gosh, you actually show emotion, and it made for good production value. Do you think that's going to negatively impact the production value, the fact that these people are not filtered? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just have X person who grinded, who's never been in front of a camera, versus like streamers who do this on a daily basis, and they're used to interacting with people behind a camera. You wonder where the production value is going to sit with that, because again, production value is a lot. So that's something we're thinking about as well.
Yeah, that's always a factor with the production value coming into things. I think we'll find that as what's the word? What am I looking for? Growing pains. I think like that's everything as we embark into this new digital format for a majority of things. Not even so much a majority, just more than it was as the digital side of Magic and esports grows. I think we're just it's something to consider. We'll see.
I have this on my list earlier. I want to make sure we cover this. So
okay.
Clifford, you were talking earlier about, and Roguelink was talking about this as well, rivals. All right. So, and Wizards has been very generous to provide us, again, with this dense article with flowcharts, by the way. This is awesome. This is like something you'd see on a college PowerPoint, you know? So, again, if you're following that link we posted earlier, if you're looking at the Rivals section, the Rivals takes the bottom 4 of the current MPL, bottom 12 from the MPL Gauntlet. Now, I just want to stop there for a second.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. I have brought this up on the screen so people can see the article now. So let me scroll to that. It'll just take a second for it to show up on the actual stream.
Cool. Then I won't read off any more statistics because I do not want to be that person that reads straight off the PowerPoint. Okay.
Yes. There's as we move on past the basic opportunities of how you can qualify for the World Championships there, and the headlines of the article that we'll mostly be covering. Kind of covered a little bit of it so far. Now I'll scroll down to this other page and hope that we're doing it right. Yeah, there we go. The Magic Rivals League. You can see there 2020 to 2021. Go ahead, Sky. You can continue.
So I'm going to kind of surmise what's going on here. So it says the Rivals get invites to events, cool. Players tour and can earn up to 20,000 in appearance fees.
Appearance fees, which are a big thing
yes.
that were taken away when the players' clubs, the pro club levels, were all removed and replaced with the MPL. So that's certainly.
Now, at the same time, the MPL now, it's 24 players now instead of the 32 that's currently happening, with the potential to earn up to $50,000. So now we're bringing money into this, okay? We're not just playing for pride at this point. There's serious life-changing money on the line. I think that 20,000 and 50,000 both life-changing money. So you can't help but wonder, and again, if you look at this flowchart, we see bottom 4. Bottom 12 for Rivals. You're earning less than half of what the MPL would be earning. Is this going to cause a lot of stress and even some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Tension between players of the MPL now? Right now, the MPL kind of seemed like a team. It was the MPL versus the streamers. That was a really cool environment. It was friendly competition. Everyone knew what to expect. And I felt like that camaraderie really helped the Mythic Invitational come together. And now I feel like you split up now, the pros against the pros now, and invite, less than a quarter of the streamers now with these discretionary slots. Do you create unnecessary tension now? And does that lower the production value? And I keep talking about production value because, again, Wizards is sinking millions of dollars into this. This is not a laughing matter, and you may as well consider this part of their marketing and advertising. So, do you think that this might cause unnecessary tension over the current system?
I think it's one of those things where with esports and commentary and this sort of like production value thing, you kind of just need to hook onto and follow the storylines as they emerge. You know, I don't think they're creating conflict in order to breed a well, as you put it, they're creating conflict, but conflict breeds, you know, interest and intrigue, and then with that conflict breeds storylines and things that they can follow and points and events that things that occur that they can follow through from one event to the next, you know, like being like the bottom four getting in, is that going to create an interesting meta for, okay, I want to perform well, but if I'm in the middle, you know, what happens to me if I'm in the middle? I'm only going to have so many events that I can participate in. Or are you just going to like grind for the top 12 and then the bottom four, the people who just happen to have a bad day that day or for that particular league get, you know, a second shot? It's great for that sort of redemption story arc as opposed to the can the top stay on top arc. And then you have the, you know, 6 discretionary slots, which just adds a tiny bit of spice. So I think each and every one of these 5 slots is a different story that they could possibly play on. Now, I don't know if that's literally looking at it from a pure production standpoint of trying to craft stories and aiming to yield these emergent stories with, you know, 5 specific categories between following the top, following the underdog, taking a look at upsets and things like that. Who knows what they're actually thinking?
Do you think 6 spots though is enough spice? Because if you look at, I have kept an eye on the lists that were published and produced from the MPL. I kid you not, there was 1 week, and this was recently, this was post M20. There was 1 week where it was literally nothing but Esper Control, Esper Hero, and Mono Red. That's it. That was the whole set of lists, not really much in between. And I can't help but wonder if 6 potentially different deck lists is going to be enough to balance the control on control matchup. Because I've talked to a lot of friends who are trying to get into watching Magic, people who are from the retro gaming community, and they love it when the creatures are colliding. But the minute you put control and control in, you lose the general interest. Of course, people have been watching Magic for a long time, love that control and control matchup. But if you're trying to reach out, again, from a marketing standpoint to a broader audience, this safe deck control on control type matchup or mono red matchup, that's going to get a little old after a few years under this current format. So what do you think might be done to offset that? Do you think that there should be certain ban lists, maybe, where you won't get the same decks over and over and over and over? It's something we're thinking about. And the only other solution to that would be to maybe add more than 6 discretionary invites, because again, it just doesn't seem like enough right now from a production standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, well, rotation's going to shake that stuff up too. It's not like we're going to have the same cards for 2 years. You know, things are going to rotate out, things are going to rotate in.
The sequence, though, of Thought Erasure, Little Teferi, and Kaya's Wrath, 2, 3, 4, that's still going to exist after rotation. Right,
but there's going to be more than one rotation by the end of 2021.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of the same until the fall after this one, unless they really do something so crazy to mix that up. But I have a feeling we might be looking at Esper for a little longer than some of us would want to see, for example. Or Mono Red, also, as Frenzy and Steamkin aren't rotating either.
I think you'll find that getting rid of Lightning Strike out of the format is going to be big to hurt Mono Red, as well as the Wizard's Lightning going away. And at the same time, like, realistically speaking, just like speaking from personal experience back when I was really grinding paper on the PTQ circuit and all that, the best players are going to play the best deck, whatever it is. If the aggro creature deck is the best deck in the format, then you're going to see the best players play that. If the control deck is the best deck, then that's what they're gonna play, regardless of anything. It's just whatever the best cards are is what people are gonna sleeve up to play.
That's why I like the discretionary slots, though. I have a feeling they are keeping an eye on people to see who is playing something different. Now we're not talking about jank. We're not talking about like super off jank. Just something that's a little different outside of the meta to really shake things up. And you can't help but wonder again if 6, and this is even assuming that they don't go with the meta, that 6 potentially different deck lists is going to be enough to make this more interesting. And this is, again, coming from the standpoint of the Invitational was a huge success and it involved 32 streamers with very different decks, as someone who saw a lot of the deck lists that were going around for that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it's one of those, I guess we'll see what's going on, but I kind of partially wished that Wizards would have given it one more year on the current, MPL invitational structure before diving into something as intricate as this. But who knows? This could be what's best for everybody, and we won't know until we see it. Is there anything y'all would like to add about Rivals versus MPL, the old way of doing things versus the new way of doing things? And again, we haven't even talked about Paper Magic yet. Clifford, that's more your wheelhouse. How do you feel as a Paper Magic player about all of this change from paper to digital? And that's just not only a Magic question, that's a question with where technology is going right now. A lot of things are converting from paper to digital. So how do you feel as a paper player about this new format?
This brave new world?
Yeah.
All right, let me preface this by saying I have a room in my house that I refer to as my library because it's just full of bookshelves and books. That's all that's in there. Is like I don't like to read Kindle books because I want to hold the book in my hand and feel it and smell it smells like a book. A Kindle doesn't smell like a book, you know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing for me with Magic, but at the same time it's not. Because I quit playing Magic seriously 6 or 7 years ago because there was no one to play with within an hour of me. My local store shut down, and I didn't like to play Standard anyway because I didn't have time to keep up with the meta with work and everything else, and so I would just play Modern or Legacy or something that when I did play, I could take a deck that I've had for a year or two and not have to worry about the rotation rendering half of it illegal, right? But now Arena comes out and I can play Standard just sitting here at my desk, get a game or two in an unranked format with whatever jank I want to throw together, or hey, take it and put it on the ladder and just go play. Now, I still don't have the time to sit here and play seriously enough to try and grind for Mythic every month and just I just don't have time to play, but it makes me want to, there's so many ways to qualify. It makes me want to just sit there and grind drafts over and over, and instead of doing best of 3 draft, just do ranked draft and try and hit Mythic drafting, because there's just so many ways to try and advance into these new Mythic invitationals and the new rivals. I don't know. It makes me excited to play Magic. It makes me want to get better at Magic. Seeing all these ways to qualify in, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And you said you had liked Modern and Legacy, and I believe Roguelink, do you play Modern or Legacy at all?
No, I don't play Modern or Legacy. They are way too rich for my blood.
I agree there. Do you feel like Modern and Legacy are left behind right now? And that is a valid criticism, Clifford, if you feel that way. Again, those were never formats I personally dabbled in either. But what do you think the future of formats such as Modern and Legacy are going?
I mean, we just saw a whole set dedicated to Modern, right? and it broke the format in half. Completely just took the format and like baned it over its knee. And so, I mean,
exactly what Wizards wanted, to be fair.
so we got to see, like, we've already seen the Bridge from Below get banned out from it. You know what I want to see for Modern? This is what I honestly like. Modern Horizons came out. Arena's rotating in the fall. There's gonna be all the cards that you're gonna, like, people are quote unquote calling it Arena Modern, right? That's the quote unquote new format that's coming. So people can play with, you know, the Ixalan and Dominaria stuff.
Right, the things rotating out. It's not historic, but it's something like that.
Yeah, what I want to
remember.
see is when that format comes out, when the rotation happens, if they make it a paper format or whatever, or even if they wait a year to make it a paper format when it's a little more robust, to actually be a paper format, not just standard +1, or however they plan to do it. Whenever that becomes a format, I want to see them take the Modern banned and restricted list and tear it up, throw it out the window, and come back and make another pass and ban like the really egregiously broken things, and then start the format over and say, hey, we don't need it to be a turn 4 format anymore. We're just gonna let it run wild and see what happens.
One season of Modern where literally nothing's banned. What could go wrong?
Like, yeah, like, see how crazy can these combo decks get? Like, what's the worst that can happen for 3 months? That's what I want to see. Like, even if they keep like this, the really, really broken stuff banned, you know, like the stuff that you can look at it and say, okay, that card shouldn't be in Modern. It shouldn't be in Legacy, like, you know, Gitaxian Probe or Mental Misstep or stuff like that. Stuff like that should obviously be banned. Should be banned, but like, unban everything else. See what happens. See if the format regulates itself, and if the format can regulate itself, then we don't have to.
Arguably as well, I mean, turn 4 seems not bad for Modern, considering where our own standard format is right now, where I feel like a lot of matches are decided by turn 4, just by the way the board state is going.
Well, decided and ended are two kind of different things,
Sure.
to be fair. But then you also have the problem of, you know, if control is running rampant, it tends to be decided far before victory conditions really hit the table.
Yes, exactly. That is more or less what I was getting at as well. I mean, for better or for worse, even Aggro to Mid now has a turn 4 win now as well. I mean, it's not common to see it, but it is out there. And then there's also Scape Shift as well, where a lot of those games kind of wrap up by turn 4, turn 5, just based on where the game is going. Same with Nexus of Fate.
Nexus of Fate, cast it, and then watch your opponent sit there for a while. It's great. It's like if I was playing Storm, except longer and more drawn.
Well, again, one of the nice things, and I trust Wizards to do this, is to keep track of the current meta and make rules based on that. Now, again, we all, including Wizards, admitted Duo Standard was probably not the most ideal format for the Mythic Invitational. However, by making it kind of best of one, Nexus of Fate was banned, because who wants to watch that over and over? So they do have, at least, they have a great sense of awareness to know what cards will not make for good viewing content. And you can't help but wonder, now, did y'all get a chance to play the Dominaria Standard Shakeup last weekend?
Yes.
The Plantation?
I did. I got my favorite land, well, one of my favorite lands in the history of Magic. I got it. I got my cool plains with the buffalo on it. Yes, I did.
So my question is, should Wizards have more of a ban list for all these formats? Should there be a more thorough ban list? Now, this is coming from a person who played Yu-Gi-Oh! On a pretty high level for 10 years. And the ban list was very helpful in making formats more playable. You avoided a lot of one-turn kills or first-turn kills, and overall, I felt like it improved the format. Do you think there should be a cycling ban list? I mean, and let's take a look at let's play devil's advocate. I've been talking about this all week on Twitter. Rampaging Ferocidon never got unbanned after Hazoret rotated. But we could still have Nexus of Fate in format. It's just something worth thinking about. Obviously, again, Hazoret and Rampaging Ferocidon could not exist in the same format, but if Wizards were to enforce, different kinds of ban rotations and such from formats, I feel like that could also make for a very interesting format. Now, is that saying that the ban list should be as long as the standard checkup? Absolutely not. It doesn't have to be a ton of stuff. But imagine, if you just had a couple of cards where it might slow down the format at least a little bit.
I think from Wizards' perspective, they definitely play the long game and go much slower than that. I honestly feel that whenever Wizards has to ban a card, it's literally the last option that they have available for dealing with the card. I don't think they're going to do anything like ban cards just to make it a particular turn format or ban cards to increase the production value. I think they're going to ban cards that are format warping, and you need that card, otherwise either you have to have that card or you have to have counter that card to the point where there's two decks. There's the deck with the warping card and then there's the anti-deck with the warping card. So I think their approach is definitely to have as small and as infrequent of a ban list as humanly possible.
Especially in standard.
Well, yeah, the ban I'm thinking in particular that I saw banned very quickly was Smuggler's Copter back from Kaladesh block. I mean, that was banned super quickly. I remember 1 minute having a full
Sometimes you print
set.
Skull Clamp.
Sometimes you print Skull Clamp. And I know a lot of people, this has been a hot topic, by the way, in upper level Magic play, at least from what I've been talking to people. Should Teferi Time Raveler be banned? Is 1 year with this, not even a year, I guess a couple months with this Teferi, too many as it is? Do you feel like Teferi is format warping? And it's not just a strain on aggressive decks right now. I've heard of control players also saying that it's been a strain on them as well. You're cutting out the counterspell aspect of the format. I can't begin to tell you the last time I saw a deck, other than maybe Simic Flash, that consistently ran counterspell. So the next question regarding bans in formats and standard is concerned, should Teferi eventually be banned?
I'm gonna just say how much I don't really like enchantment walkers. Just in general, it's a cool idea for the one-off set, and I was excited for it. But in execution, to me, I just don't like it because I always forget that the planeswalkers have static abilities, and then some of them don't. So when you look at it, it might be one that might not be. It just drives me personally crazy. And I have lost 2 games just to forgetting that Teferi even had a stupid static ability. And
oh yeah, I've lost a couple of those where I was like, oh yeah, I just need to add this pump spell or whatever. But I can't. I'm like, well, nope, there goes my game.
Right, yeah, I can't cast this because Teferi's there, and I think for 3 mana he's exceptionally strong. And I don't know, we'll see. I think that for now, it's fine. Give it until the rotation. After the rotation, if he's still just standing there and I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't think yet. Not bannable yet, but on a watch list. On the watch list, probably at the top of my watch list.
And again, I want to make it clear. You're thinking about Teferi as a one-of. It's not bad. You can play around it. Ill-timed one does feel like a pain in the butt. But when you start basing multiple copies
Oh yeah,
in a
it's when
single match.
okay, yeah.
It's the
Cast
second. It's
one,
the second
minus
Teferi
one.
that gets you.
Yes, or the
Alpha
third.
strike to kill the Teferi, play the Teferi again, be very
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's something that should at least, and I'm sure Wizards has already thought about this after all, the response to Teferi, which was shifting Ceratops, was created, and that certainly helps out. When you think about how many matches you win because you're playing shifting Ceratops, that's how you know Teferi is really strong. And that is the counter card to Teferi, because think about it, it can trample, it can haste. If you have the proper mana, you can do both at the same time. But that's really the only answer that was printed for it, specifically.
Yo, Fry is around.
Who plays Fry? Come on now.
I play 4 Fry in the sideboard of my Mardu deck. It's a great card. It kills
Yeah.
Teferi outright, and they can't do
Fry
anything.
Fry is pretty solid. I think it also comes down to paper magic versus digital magic. Teferi is way better in best of one.
Well, the problem is, too,
Way
you
better.
can't play Fry at instant speed if Teferi is on the field. You can't respond to it. You have to wait
No,
for
but you
your
can
opponent's
on
turn.
your turn. You can be like, "Hey,
But the point is,
Duh.
by that point, I feel like the damage is already done from the Teferi. Like, once Teferi, draws a card, bounces something, damage is already done at that point. It doesn't matter what happens to Teferi, and which is why he's so difficult to deal with in multiples. So again, that's something to kind of look at going forward. And again, I know that this is something Wizards has discussed. It's been going on in the pro scene. People have been talking about Teferi. We'll see what happens with fall rotation. I do feel like it's too much power for a card. I feel like right now, too, a lot of people have been saying Llanowar Elves has been too powerful a card. I would agree with that as well. You have to look at what is format warping, and I feel like Teferi is just that. And I feel like most decks that can run Teferi are running Teferi.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I don't know how common it is for answers to be printed in core sets. Usually a handful of answers, like maybe one, maybe two. They obviously had those very specific hate cards for every color. But I think when we see the next set of mechanics, we're either going to see a Teferi banning relatively quickly, or we're going to see some pretty spicy answers to the enchantment walkers, like all of the enchantment walkers.
Well, yeah, I mean, Nissa Who Shakes the World is another enchantment walker that is absolutely out of control, especially when paired with Hydroid Crisis. That's another one that's just entirely format warping. Which brings me to one other question here. I know we only got 10 minutes left. And this is, I don't know if all y'all have had this one, but this is one I've been thinking of. What happened to Dreadhorde decks?
I got beat by one earlier today. They're still out there.
I haven't seen them that much towards the top of Mythic.
Well, I'm not at the top of Mythic, so I can't speak to that level of play.
But I haven't seen them in Mythic, and I haven't seen it in lists as much. Every now and then I'll see like a couple in like a side deck as like a spicy, one or two of. But Command the Dreadhorde has just completely vanished lately, as the Explore package has too. Are people just preparing for rotation much?
I think it loses to the Scapeshift deck outright.
Yeah.
And the Scapeshift is the better version of the Command the Dreadhorde deck. So if you're going to play Command the Dreadhorde, you might as well just play Scapeshift and do it better.
Yeah, and the Flash deck's really good against those archetypes, as well as Chat's bringing up. The blue-green Flash deck just murders all sorts of things, really.
I don't know, I never, and maybe this is just the way I've built my current deck, but Scapeshift doesn't seem too bad compared to Esper Control. I still feel like Esper Control is arguably the best deck in the format, as much as I don't want to admit that. But, I don't know, I've seen Scapeshift do things, but I've also seen it do nothing. It's a very odd deck to watch being played, but it obviously has merit. A lot of the pros are playing it and having success with it right now, and that's what matters ultimately. But I can't help but feel like Esper is still at the top of it right now.
I think
So-
you're probably correct. Like, I think Teferi still rules the roost right now. In
Well,
both
yeah.
versions.
Mhm. So, with that being said, are there any other questions currently about this very dense article or the format or where we're heading right now? Now is the time to ask that. And it could be about anything. It could be about, again, modern or legacy. I do not want to leave those formats out. I don't want to have a standard bias or a limited bias. I want to make sure that those get equal time as well, which is why I'm very thankful, Clifford, that you have played tabletop. You have played those formats. That's very important to this discussion.
I wish I was more up to date on them, but yeah, I have takes. Sometimes they're good takes. Most of the time they're okay. Sometimes they're just wrong. But hey, that's how it goes.
All right, so we have some stuff from the chat here. You'd like to see some talk about the matchmaker. Ooh, that's a spicy thing, actually, that is worth some talking about. So, I don't think in the matchmaker process that deck types are paired against each other or not paired against each other. Some people, I've heard people talk about that. I don't think that's the case. But in terms of ranking wise, I find that sometimes, like, you know, I typically dwell anywhere from, you know, on a decent day, I dwell anywhere between, we'll call it 550 mythic and maybe like 200. You know, that's a pretty common zone for me to be in.
Okay.
And I, for whatever reason, keep going up against, you know, percentage gamers, you know, so they're in mythic, but they're in the percentages, and I don't typically see a ton of people who are actually ranked going against me. So I don't know what's up with that. That's always something that, again, that is worth discussing. How do y'all think the matchmaking system works, and do you feel like there's something about it that needs to be fixed?
I personally don't know enough about the matchmaker to like have an opinion on it. I personally try to stay away from like digging too deeply into that myself, just because I like to, like, when I'm playing the game, if I lose, it's because I made a mistake somewhere. Like, I want to find the mistake I made, and even if it wasn't my fault at all, even because sometimes, yeah, the shuffler or like just sometimes the game gives you lands 4 or 5 in a
yes.
row off the top. You know, just sometimes stuff happens, even if you kept a good hand or whatever. But even then, I try to find where I made the mistake and try, like, I don't try to blame things like that, because it gets, like, I don't know. I want to feel like I'm in control, and by blaming those things, it just snowballs on me. If that
Right,
makes
same
sense.
here. I'd rather focus on what I can change myself, you know, slightly tuning the deck, slightly adding
it's
some
like
more consistency,
not-
that sort of thing.
Not forgetting about the Teferi's stupid enchantment ability and loot punting the game because of that, or, you know, playing the Gift of Paradise on the swamp instead of the plains when I need something that requires triple white. You know, just little things like that or like missing 1 damage somewhere because I just this any small thing. I would rather blame my loss on something I did than the fact that the shuffler or the matchmaker found that I had too many rare cards in my deck, so matched me up against somebody else. Like, whether or not that's actually a thing that's happening, I personally don't like to dig into it, because it gets inside my head trying to, like, yeah.
You only
Words.
get 4 to 5 lands in a row? I'm jealous. I am very jealous if that's all you get in a row.
Yeah, it's been a while since I think they posted an article about it, but last I heard, in ranked, it's literally just you're going to pair up with your tier of with your tier, like either silver or, like, ideally like silver 2 or whatever, or at least silver, that sort of thing. And in just standard play, that's when it takes your deck's win ranking into account, plus like how many times that specific deck's won. But rank, I believe it's just, you know, your rank. Play is when it takes your specific deck's ratios into account.
So what happens then? Now, at the beginning of the season, all Mythic players go back to Platinum to start. I recall being in Platinum and getting Diamond and Mythic people, or even in Diamond and still getting Mythic people. So that's kind of odd that I would get somebody outside of my tier.
Well, I think it jumps. It's if you're at the end or at the beginning, it's more likely to jump up or jump down a tier.
Sure.
But if you're like in the middle, you're going to be there.
That's
Because there's
interesting.
only going to be because which kind of makes sense. You've got to beat the people at the place you're going, as well as the place you currently are, and then just depending on numbers, it might get fudged a little bit. But again, I don't have that much insider knowledge. It's just a matter of this is what they announced previously.
And one other thing I want to point out, because if you're watching this and you want to try to make these Mythic Championship qualifiers or MCQs, remember that you have, I believe, 3 months to just make Mythic once in the top 1,000. You have to be in the top 1,000. You can't be in the percentile. You can't be 1,100 or 1,200. You have to be in the top 1,000. Now,
1,200, but
well, starting next
yes.
year.
1,000 get...
It's
Oh,
1,000
okay,
right
yeah.
now. Yeah, it'll change. But for right now, it's top 1,000. But you have 3 months to do it. So think of that as 3 chances. So there's still time for you to do this. If you don't like the current format, rotation and the next set are coming out soon. So don't feel pressured that you have to adapt within this format to play in the next MCQ. Because after all, the next MCQ will not include this format anyways. So just a little bit of a tip. If it's something you want to do, if it's something you want to grind, you don't necessarily have to invest in the current cards right now. Rena will even ask you when you go to redeem these wild cards, are you sure you would like to do this? These sets are rotating out. And that being said, my thought to think about for the next time we have a discussion, what is going to happen with, there's 2 formats supposedly coming out. There's the, I don't want to call it Arena Modern. A lot of people have given me a hard time about this. The older Arena cards, we'll call it for now. And we have Brawl coming out, which is, I believe, a form of Commander. It's a lot like Commander. So, will these modes get their own respective ranks and tournaments? Do you believe that those modes should get at least their own qualifiers, their own different individual rankings, and why? And do you think that would be better or worse for Arena to incorporate those into professional play, into ranked play? So, something we're thinking about for next time, certainly.
Definitely is. Oh, sorry, go
I just
ahead.
double checked the format is in fact called Historic.
Historic.
So Historic is going to be everything that's been released for the public beta of Arena. So it won't include Amonkhet and Kaladesh.
No.
But it will include everything Ixalan and beyond. And I think I saw in an interview somewhere that they're not including Kaladesh and Ixalan for power reasons, not for technical reasons. So
You mean Amonkhet?
Or yeah, Amonkhet.
Yeah, Amonkhet and Kaladesh both. I've heard the phrase going around vehicles were a mistake, and now what do we have? We have Weatherlight in current standard right before rotation. So that's also funny to think about. So yeah, I want everyone to think about Historic, Brawl. Should there be ranked versions of this or special events dedicated to this? Why and why not?
I think Historic definitely. Brawl I have to learn more about because I think it's more geared towards like fun and casual play, but we'll see once it all gets here. It's all coming very soon to a Magic Arena near you.
But yeah, I would like to again thank Speed Gaming for hosting us, Team Instant Speed, here tonight. I would like to thank my fellow commentators here, Roguelink and Clifford, for their time, and I would like to thank everybody here for showing up tonight. And again, if you do have any questions, we do have a Team Instant Speed Discord. Please join up that Discord, and maybe we'll dedicate a channel for questions for next time, and we can read your questions and address some of the issues or curiosities you have about Magic Arena in particular. If not,
There is a channel already in the Discord that people can see if they have the community role. I just didn't ping anybody to say, hey, ask questions here. Because I'm bad at advertising and stuff. Anyway.
We'll get him next time.
Yeah.
Everyone... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We're hoping in the future as well to be able to include a special layout with cameras and such for those who would like to have their face showing on here so it looks like you're talking to us. So something we are considering doing as well. So this is just our first one. This was a dry run. It was fun. It was interesting. And it's something I would certainly like to look forward into doing in the future.
Oh, do I have plans?
Dun 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 dun.
All right. Well, everyone, y'all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. We have been Team Instant Speed. I, particularly, have been Clifford. I'll continue to be Clifford, I guess. But I was also. With that, I'll get out of here. I'll let you all say goodbye as well.
All right, take care, and thank you so much again. Please join the Discord if you want to ask questions or if you want to know more further about our team, if you want to participate in our game versions of these Wednesday Night Magics. They're not all going to be talk shows. We're going to go back to playing as well. So yes, please let us know, leave us feedback. And again, thanks to everybody. Berglund?
Oh yeah, we'll play Standard next week. We'll play Standard on this channel. Well, maybe not this channel, maybe the other channel, but Wednesday Night Magic, will we go back to playing games next week and not just jabbering between the three of us. So bring your Standard deck. Bring out all your Teferis.
Why would you say that?
Why wouldn't I?
Why would you bring this upon this house?
Anyway, Rogue League, take us home.
See you all next week, everybody.